All right, what you're about to see me do is not recommended at all. It is pure lunacy. It is something that I do not recommend. I cannot take responsibility for it if you decide to do something like this. Even though I'm showing you what I did, this is not a tutorial on how to mess up your computer. But what I'm doing is something that I've told other people they probably shouldn't do. So basically what it comes down to, this is the HP Prebuilt that we've discovered before. And we also did another video on it where we were trying to do some upgrades, change the memory configuration in a little bit, and try to run some other benchmarks. We've also taken the CPU out of this, and we've done some tests on the CPU itself just to see what it would do or how it would do outside of this jail cell that HP has put it in. The 4600G is a great CPU, 6 cores, 12 threads, Ryzen 5. It will do most anything you need it to do. Only available in pre-built unless you get it, say, off the gray market, if you get it on eBay or something like that from maybe like South Korea, Taiwan, or what have you. So we wanted to try to see what was going on and if we could do anything with it, because there are certain constraints, especially with trying to upgrade the BIOS or anything like that. The one question I keep getting is, well, can I put a video card in this computer? The biggest problem with that is most video cards take power. It just happens. They also put off heat, which is this is a confined space. So we're entering into a few issues there. Now you can put a low power video card in here, but the problem with that is some of those video cards, say if you're looking at an NVIDIA 700 series, maybe even an 800 series, maybe even up to the 1050s, or definitely something like a 1030, by the time you get those that you don't need external power for, that you can get just the power off of the motherboard itself, a lot of those are worse performing than the actual processor that's built into the CPU. So you're not going to get any gain. You might get a small advantage by getting some extra memory that's on the video card that's not available on the CPU, but that's only if you go with something that's, say, a gigabyte or more on the video card for memory to help with that buffer. It comes with 512 already, and some of those older models don't, if they've got 512 or maybe even 1 gig, you're not really getting too much of an advantage. So I did something kind of silly. A lot of people have asked, can I do it, can I do it? And I keep on telling them, I don't recommend it unless you do X, Y, or Z. So I thought, what would happen if I did it? So I have a 1650 Super sitting around. It's a GTX 1650 Super. It's about 1.5 years, 2 years old. I got it before the whole crazy conundrum that we're dealing with, but it has an external power. And you can't get that off of the motherboard because that PCIe lane only handles a maximum of 75 watts. This video card is supposed to be, it's rated as 80 to 100 watts. More on that later, but that is very true. So I went back and I looked, okay, it's only a 180 watt power supply. Now it's a good power supply. It's an 80 plus gold power supply, but it is only 180 watts. And if you're talking about using 80 to 100 watts off the video card, then you can't afford to be pulling a whole lot off the processor. And unfortunately, some of the processors nowadays their power rating is up to 105 watts. So if we're dealing with a graphics card that pulls a lot and a CPU that pulls a lot, that's not even including any hard drives or any fans or anything like that that might go in here as well. So that's where we have to be careful. I went and I looked, and the processor itself is rated for about 65 watts. The motherboard, the video card is rated between 80 and 100 watts. And I figured, you know what, if I'm careful with it, maybe I got a little bit extra room. So I ordered an adapter, SATA to 8-pin. Now this is only a 6-pin, but that adapter does work. It's a 6 or an 8-pin, but I ordered it from Amazon. I'm not going to put any links or anything. First of all, it's not an affiliate link. Second of all, I'm not encouraging you to try this. I'm just telling you that I found it on Amazon, and there are a bunch of different types, and they're easy to find. Make sure you get one that's highly rated, that you want thicker cables if possible. You don't want a cheap piece of whatever. The reason why I did this is that you can get 75 watts off the motherboard. You're able to pull that. The other 50 watts, you can pull 50 watts worth of power through a SATA cable. So as long as you have a decent adapter, you should be able to pull most of that 50 watts. And that gives you 125 watts or so, 125 watts worth of draw that you could get to the video card. We're not going to pull that because, first of all, that video card is not rated for that. Second of all, if you do put a video card in there that's rated for that, and you're pulling off the CPU, and you got fans and all that stuff, your power supply is going to have a problem. The other thing I thought of when we did this is, okay, right now it's open, and you can do that, but then heat. There are no real fans. I mean, there's one fan here, there's a fan on the CPU, there's a fan on the GPU. It's going to be a hot box. And when I started going ahead and doing the initial testing, I found that to be so. What I also found to be so is it drew a lot of power, nearly maxing out the power supply itself. By the time I put everything on, and by the time I put the side panel and everything, the SATA cable, the adapter, the video card in, which did work and does work, put the side panel back on and everything, not only was she nice and toasty warm, getting up to about 84 degrees on the GPU and about probably 75 degrees on the CPU, but she was drawing almost the full allotted power that she could have out of that power supply. It's not very long before that thing would go, it just crazy. It would go completely, it would die on us. So I had to think of something else. I got an 80 millimeter fan that I already have out of another build. I've got a load of 120s. The 120 is not going to fit here, but on the other side of this, and I'll go ahead and show you some B-roll, I had to be rather creative and install an 80 millimeter fan. Now, it won't even fit directly because there's some little tabs that keep the fan from holding on, so I had to actually put it in a spot where it's kind of blocked off. Some of the airflow is even blocked off. So HP, you really just keep stepping on your feet when you're doing this build, and I don't know why the big problems. If you get a small fan for this, this is like 60 or probably 65 or 75 millimeter size. That's not a common fan. You're talking about something that's not going to push a lot of air anyway. So I did manage to get an 80 millimeter fan mounted in here, even though it's a little bit obstructed, and oh, what a difference. Now, the video card still got up to about 80, 81, 82 degrees. The CPU hit about 65, 68 degrees in most cases, but the big difference was the power draw. My power draw went from almost maxing out the full 180 to only getting about 160 or so, 155, 160, much more manageable. And even though the temps were high, the recovery time was a lot quicker. And I found out in several benchmarks, and when I was doing things, that I tended to get just a little bit more frames and a little bit higher score, especially in stuff like having the benchmark and all that, than I did with no fan with just a cover on it. Now, the cover does have some perforation, so you can get some intake from the fan. It's not a lot, but every little bit in this case helps. And I've actually ordered a Noctua fan that should help with that. It's Noctua fan is going to be much, much better than an old stock case fan, and I think we'll be better off with that. So that's what I'm going to try next to see if I can't get any better airflow, and that might work a little bit better in itself. So that's what I got in there. And the big difference, obviously, with putting a video card in as opposed to just using the regular APU is games when you play them. Now, it's still, I wouldn't do any like hardcore, serious, serious, strenuous, like we got to do a marathon match or anything like that. But for light gaming and just some casual gaming and even running benchmarks, it makes a huge difference. I usually run like Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Borderlands 3, and Dirt 5 with some of the benchmarks that I do. And running those, you can see a huge difference. 3 to 4 times the frame rate in 1080 low, very, very playable. And you can even play these at 1080 high and get most of the time between 40 to 50 frames per second. So very, very doable. And I was really pleased that the wattage, the pull, the power draw of this system with the fan installed, that's very important if you are going to try this yourself. Video card, okay. Fan, definitely. It helped immensely, and it brought everything back down into line where I actually feel a little bit safer doing it now that I put the fan in, even when I put the cover on the side, than I would have just running by itself. Still not recommending it. Still not saying it's a good idea. Am saying with the right equipment, you can do it. That being said, we'll do a few more tests and we'll see what happens. But yes, technically you can put a video card that takes auxiliary or external power by using the SATA connection. Keep in mind, please keep in mind, you're only able to pull 75 watts from the motherboard through the PCIe slot and 50 watts through the SATA adapter. There are no Molex or anything like that on here. They would be rated about the same thing, the 50 watts. You don't want to go that high anyway, because you don't want a video card that's pulling more than about 80 to 100 watts. You're gonna, you'll tear something up. Not to say you're not gonna tear anything up this way. Like I said, not recommending it. Anyway, it can do it. I can do it. I did it. So for those of you out there that keep on asking me, hey, can I stick a video card in there? I did. I'm not saying you can. That's on you. But I'm saying I did. Then that's where we're going to go with that. And that's where we're going to, like I said, we'll do some other stuff with this. We'll see what the deal is and maybe play with it a little bit more. But she's turned into a pretty decent system. I did have the option, or I did have the thought of replacing the power supply to a heavier power supply, like I believe I can get a hold of a 400 watt power supply for $100. But that's not really in keeping with the spirit with the pre-built, because by the time I did that, I paid $600 for the pre-built. I already had the video card. I paid $50 for the memory, the extra stick of memory in here, and $7 for the adapter. So for an extra $60 or so, we still only paid a little over $700 for the whole system. It's not like I'm sinking another whole upgrade, because I did already have the video card. But if I was trying to do something like that later, if you're going to get a system like this and try to find a secondhand video card to put in here, you're probably better off finding a different system to do it in anyway. I'm just saying. Can you do it? Yeah, I did it. Technically, you can. I'm not giving you my blessing, not giving you my permission, just telling you that it's possible. Anyway, that's all I got for this time, folks. If you liked the video, go ahead and throw a like on it. A lot of people have been asking, and I'll tell you, I'll take one for the team, and I'll try it out for you. But if you liked the video, go ahead and throw a like on it. If you didn't, you can thumbs down, but tell me why. Don't forget to hit me up on the other socials. Subscribe if you're not already. An amazing number of people, like 1 in 8 people are not subscribed that watch these videos, so I really, really dearly appreciate it if you hit that red button down there. It's absolutely free, doesn't cost you anything, and it sure does help me feel better. Anyway, like I said, that's all I got for next time. I've got a couple things in the works, including a Logitech mouse that I just got, a little bit off the beaten path. I got a battery recharge or portable charger that I'm checking out and trying out to charge my cell phone, tablet, and all that stuff. Not normally PC related stuff, but I got it, so I figured I'd try it out, and if I like it, I'll tell you guys. But the Logitech mouse is definitely coming up. It's a 502 Hero, and I've been using that for a couple days, and I'll tell you my likes and dislikes. So anyway, you got all I got today, and it's thunderstorming, and we got through it, and now I just have to edit. So until next time, folks, I'll see you later.